Welcome to Your Life in Film. I'm your host, Ted Bennett. Joining me this week, James Cleave. James is a writer-director whose work explores human connection through realistic, dialogue-driven drama, often with a sharp thread of humour running through the discomfort. James has a series of short films, all of which have been very well received. His debut sci-fi drama, Sometime Else, was screened at the BAFTA Cymru qualifying Carmarthen Bay Film Festival. It's a good one, I like it, I'll put the trailer down there. His second short film, Mafia, was also received very well. That was BIFA qualified. And his most latest BIFA qualified comedy, Self-Tape, is currently on its festival run following its premiere at Unrestricted View Film Festival. We start the conversation with me asking James how he got into the industry. So that's what we're talking about. I'll leave it to him. Enjoy. I love how Pride was your, like, oh, I was doing this job and I was trying to get this job, but luckily I had Pride to fall back on, which is a beautiful film anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like, imagine if, like, even if you just had Pride, it'd be like, I got to work on Pride. So.
Yeah, Pride was a special film. It was, I was like one of a handful of floor runners. There weren't many of us on that job. I think there were 2 or 3 of us actually. And considering we had about 13 main cast every day, and you know, well-established names now, as you well know, and
Yeah.
It was primarily a location job across Wales, across central London. We had lots of big, crowd days. It was just, really, really busy every single day, and it was a challenging job in a number of respects. But it's one I look back at very fondly, and I'm so glad that it has not only found an audience for the team involved, but also it propelled some careers, and it's become sort of one of those nostalgic, or I'm trying to think of the right word. It's just become one of those cult films now, especially within that community as well. So no, I'm very proud to have worked on it, and I learned a lot about life on it as well, because you learn a lot about life with film, and especially with a film like Pride, and in a community you're not necessarily connected to specifically, but you do learn a lot. And that's why I love film. You're catapulted into scenarios you haven't been exposed to, and that was one of those in a way. Obviously, having lots of friends before and since has sort of opened up that experience even further. But yeah, and I'm just so glad how well it turned out. But I was very exhausted by the end of it.
I can imagine actually, because like when I watched that film when it first came out, like I was struck by the energy, especially in like the that sort of duality of like the bookshop energies, and then the old like gentleman's club sort of the social club kind of places where everyone sat and all the energies in there. Like they're both very high energy areas that when you're making a film like that, you can really fluff it and not get those energies right, but they always are the right level of sort of like fizz in the room, if that makes sense. So I can imagine like shooting it, like trying to get everyone to sort of get to there and then stay there. I can imagine it's a lot, but good,
Yeah, I mean, the team were amazing. I mean, from ADs and directors, and writers, everyone involved just brought a level of energy to that film all the way through. And because we're filming on location as well at Gaze the Word Bookshop, and in one of the many sort of pubs, the social pubs, or working class men's clubs.
Yeah, working men's clubs.
Working men's clubs, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was actually on location. So there were lots of, it was very authentic in that respect. And I think, especially in the Welsh mining town that we were filming in. So it just was legitimate. And I think that probably helped aid that it wasn't just a backlot kind of job. So yeah,
that's
no,
true.
it was very, very good.
So with your film career, are you a film school guy? Did you go NFTS? Did you go like any of those places, or are you all self-taught?
Yeah, to an extent. So I went to Bournemouth University, and the reason I went there was that I studied the advertising and marketing course. I chose advertising because I didn't think a career in film was viable for someone like myself who isn't connected to the industry at all. And I always, growing up in Cyprus as a tiny little village community, I never imagined myself working on the big stage. I've watched films my whole life. I'm a big cinephile. I watched thousands of films, and I just thought, well, advertising's like mini movies to me, and it's 30-second movies. Maybe this is a way in to being in that, maybe sort of a sidestep to that lovely world. I'm I'm not in film, but I'm making things. So I studied that, and it sort of all came about when I graduated. There was a company that I really wanted to work for. There's one specific advertising agency that did loads of creative work that I found fascinating, and I sort of had received their summer placement, but I was with someone else, and part of our course you had to do a set period of time in order to graduate, and I had to turn them down, and they said, "Oh, that's a shame you're turning us down." Well, that's weird. They never get turned down, and I said, "Well, I've already said yes to this. I'm a man of my word. I'm afraid I've just said yes to this, but is there a time you could maybe have me afterwards?" And they went, "It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But if you apply to our annual scheme on your graduation, we'd love to sort of continue the conversation." And I said, "Brilliant, I'll let you know as soon as I've graduated." So I graduated, applied, and then got rejected. So I was like, right, okay, well, I only want to work there. I don't really want to work anywhere else. I got quite sort of stuck in the mud about it, going, I'm just going to work here. So what can I do for a year? I can't go on a gap year. I can't really afford that. But my university was doing a percentage off if you went back and did a master's, and I thought, what would I do a master's in if that would be useful? And the master's was in producing film and television. I thought, well, I've always felt like I could direct myself. What is a useful tool that can aid that process? If I go into an advertising room, okay, hi, I work in advertising, but I also can produce, I can direct, I can help out, I understand the process. So I ended up studying producing film and television at Bournemouth University, which was a year-long course, and it was great. It was a really really fun course. Learned a lot. Really tried to push every project as far as I could possibly go to sort of learn from the experience. But that was the extent of my film school, because my real film school was as soon as I graduated, and thousands of emails and calls and random cold calls to people, eventually leading to my first job. The first job, within 3 days, I think I learned more in those 3 days than the entire year at university. That was the film school, was being on set and seeing what it was really like.
100%. During uni for me, I got a job as an EPK producer.
Oh, nice.
So I worked on a couple of short films that were BFI funded, one of which we had the same script supervisor as you on Sometime Else. Lefteris.
Oh, right, Lefteris. Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a small world, isn't it? Oh, he's
It's
great.
bonkers. When I saw his name in the credits, I was just like, oh! I instantly messaged him and I was like, I just saw your name in a film. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Very, very talented guy.
Oh, my God. That dance video, the one that he's... Jeez, that's good. That looks bloody good.
Like, because he directs as well, yeah.
Yeah. The last time I spoke to him was because I was watching Flux Gourmet, and he had script supered that as well, the Strickland film.
Oh, wow.
And I was, I know, and I was like, I'm going to have to message him now. So, like, the last 2 times I've messaged him, it's just been like, I've just seen your name again. So he's doing very well.
Good.
But anyway, so I had worked on those 2 films while at uni. So it was a summer, I would just do a short with them. And it was very interesting. Everything that you're sort of told is all well and good, but when you see it in action and you see the realities of it, and you see sort of like the time crunching, and especially when it's your job to document it, you really have to keep an eye on everyone. You're like, what is everyone doing? Because I've got to see what is the most engaging for an EPK, but also I have to sort of just like observe every single thing and be like, right, well, we've seen those guys set up that stuff. We don't need that every day. So if they're doing that, what are the other guys doing? What are these people doing? Who are they going? What are the producers up to? And it becomes a very interesting way to sort of get yourself around every single job. And then once you see all the jobs, you're like, God, there's so much here. And I've learned so much in this 2-week period that, I always tell people if they want to get into film, I'm just like, try and shoot it behind the scenes for someone else. That's going to be a great way.
Or be a runner, which is kind of my way in. I think that's how you really learn what all the different roles are. I say
Yeah.
runner now. We're now set PAs, but when I was there, it was floor runner or runner driver if you had a car, which I didn't at the time. So, but yeah, you're completely right. I think what my course was great for was producing things, even at the amateur level, because it taught you resilience of how the realities of doing things, like, what you really have to do to make something, good or bad. And you can make loads of mistakes and it doesn't really matter. And, you learn the paperwork. I think they were very good for paperwork, which as a producer is vital.
Yeah.
It's a vital skill. So I'd say they're on that side of things from production perspective. I think they had a very, very good understanding. But when you're on set is a very different thing. It's almost the prep leads to the set, and if all the prep's done well, then the set should go pretty smoothly. Everything
Yes.
always goes wrong, but as long as you know how to mitigate that and work with the ever-changing, fiascos that happen on set, you just got to learn to roll with it. And I think the more you do, the more you get used to it.
Yeah, I think it's a shame that the runner role has become like it's almost the hen's teeth role. It used to be that the job you could get was runner, and that got you in. Now, like, the amount of people who, like, I always go to colleges whenever I need a runner, because I'm like, I'd rather give it to someone who's got no experience, because it seems that, like, very well-trained people are just taking jobs as runners because there's hardly any jobs going. And then you're just sort of like, but that's not, like, I respect that you're going to do a better job, but that job's not for you. Like, that job is specifically for, like, up-and-coming people, and I don't want to sort of take that away from them. So yeah, it's a difficult role to get into now. It used to be the bread and butter role, but
I think when I started, which was in 2010, was a real famine period as well. There weren't that many jobs. We would take anything from a £50 music video, 16-hour day, to I think £400 for 6-day weeks. It was very very low paid, and that's for TV. You just took what you could, and you just kept. And I think that's kind of my mentality. It was just yes to everything, just yes to everything. I just took it if I could, sort of fit it into my schedule, and I think I took off maybe 1 or 2 weeks a year, in January, when everything used to slow down.
yeah,
And I was very thankful because I worked a lot and I learned a lot. And when I started out, there was a rule, an unwritten rule that is not really so much a thing now, but essentially they were saying you should be a runner for 3 years plus, and then when this space becomes available, you become a third AD for 3 years, and then you become a second AD for 5 to 10 if you really want to be a really good second, and then you can go up to firsting. And then after firsting, if you don't want to continue firsting, you can then produce. I do find that some of the most amazing producers I've worked with, on top of the natural talent of being a producer, have been ones that have been ADs as well, because they've understood that side of things as well. I'm not saying that you have to be an AD to be a good producer. That's not true. But I just find that it's a different string to the bow when you've done both, because you have to manage so many people on set.
I think whenever it comes to any element of promotion in the ranks, like rising the ranks, I want someone who has mucked out the toilets and picked up all the cups. You know what I mean? I want someone who has done all of it, so that when they get to that level, they say to me, go do it, and I know they've done it. They've done it before. They've been where I am. That's that, and then I don't mind. It's probably a stupid way of thinking, but it is always like, no. I know you've done it, and I know you're asking me to do it. I will happily do it. But when I know that someone hasn't done it, they've just come straight in as this, I am a bit like, careful. Like, you've not done it all, so you don't know. And I know that's whatever. But there is always that feeling of, like, I've always got a bit more time for someone who's rised in the ranks than someone who sidesteps straight in. And it's like, I'm sure you have transferable skills elsewhere, and I'm sure you're very, very competent. But
Yeah. And I think in the old days as well, and keep saying the old days because it really is now, but there was a risk element to stepping up too quickly as well, and there was risk and reward. The risk was you stepped up and then suddenly you're a third AD or a second, and you would continue on that path and you would do a great job, and then we're like, yep, you're ready to step up and now's the time. Or you step a bit too quickly and you fail catastrophically because you haven't been trained, because there aren't any training for that. You just got to learn by being on the job. and you fail, and then you're not hired as a third AD for a very long time, and people remember that, and they were like, no, we don't trust them to be a third AD. You know, it was challenging like that. I'd say people do step up a bit quicker now, and some of their biggest jobs are people's first jobs. You know, you're on Netflix for your first job as a PA sometimes now, which for us was unheard of. It was so, I remember when I first started, someone said to me, "You'd be lucky to get to Disney by the fifth year," because there weren't many Disney jobs. There just
Nah.
weren't many. But it was 5 years just to get into that pool of people, and that has changed because we have so many productions of that scale, operating in the UK now compared to before.
The opportunity for more work is always a good thing, and it is a worry that the rising like too quickly and then not being hired again. It felt very much about 2014 era. There was about six of everyone, and they were all getting the same jobs. It very much felt like there were only 5 or 6 camera assistants and they're working on everything. There's only 5 or 6 DPs and they're working on everything. So it's no surprise that if you made one fluff, that's 6 different crews you probably aren't going to work on again. And they're the only 6 crews unless you go back lower. And I do think that that's changed now. I think there being such a wider... People aren't as worried about it being like, oh, this is for YouTube. You know, it used to be like, oh, you're going to put it on YouTube? Ugh, okay, fair enough. And now it's like, well, just put it on YouTube, because then it'll pick up traction if it's going to pick up traction, and then it'll get big. So now there's none of that. There's a lot more crews, and it's just a lot more abilities to work. And I think you can lock yourself into a thought process. I had it for the longest time, that a metric of success for me was to have a film shown at cinema. That's not an option in the same way it was 20, 30 years ago, especially when I first started like loving cinema like 30 odd years ago, because that's just how films were released. Now that's not just how films are released. So I have to change that thinking and be like, no. A metric of success is, can you make another one? Like, can you make a film that is so enjoyable that someone says, oh, can I have one of those, please? And, I think that's another part of the multiple crews, multiple places where you can work, multiple platforms. There's just so many places where a film can be displayed now. There's so many more crews. Having said all that, there is currently no work and it's a drought in the industry. But that's that.
But statistically, if you as a director, I think it's like 30% chance of you making a second film. It's quite low. It's a very, very low statistic, and there are a lot of people who are first and only time, one-time directors of features because they're so notoriously difficult to get off the ground. And also there is a cross. Normally there would be the promo group of people, there'd be the advertising people, commercial world, and then you'd have TV world and the film world, and they would all be slightly different tribes of people. Like even now, I'm not connected to the commercial world, but I am connected to film and TV and promo if I really wanted to. But there are those sort of pools of when you're in commercials, even smaller than the rest of them. That is a very close knit community, and that's great because those who are in it thrive, and that's wonderful. I think everyone should thrive anyway. I've always been of that mentality, and I was very lucky that I could do a commercial, and then I could do a TV show, then I could do a film. I was quite lucky like that. I didn't necessarily stick to one genre. And we're seeing now, even with actors, and directors, they're not just saying, I'm just a film director. They are saying, I'm happy to do TV, I'm happy to do this, I'm happy to do that, because now everything's being so elevated with the quality of everything else that the lines are blurring, and you're getting really thought-provoking TV, and you're getting fantastic budgets on both TV and film now, especially if you're working for the likes of Amazon or Netflix or those sorts of things. It's a much better situation than we were 10, 15 years ago.
I like to consider myself a storyteller now. That's how I like to, a filmmaker, yes, but storyteller is kind of how it's a broad spectrum, because I've got ideas that I always think like, oh, this would be a great comic book. And then someone would be like, why don't you do that as a short film? I'm like, because it works as a comic book. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just knowing that format of this story works in a very specific visual narrative way, and that's how I would like to tell that story. So being able to just sort of be like, I'll just that element of writing, but for a very specific medium, I think is a fun way of looking at it, and not pigeonholing yourself, as you sort of said there, with like just being a filmmaker, just being a TV, just being ads. It's like, no, I've got a great idea, whether it's a 30-second promo for someone, a 3-hour feature, or a graphic novel. I've got this story and it works in this medium, and it's good fun.
And I think you're right, though. Just really on that point, I think there is also that difference between content creation and and sort of story and filmmaking, because they are two different beasts as well. The content world is so very, very different to the narrative world. In a number of ways.
I do look at those content creators with such a like an element of awe and wonder. I just think like it's amazing that you can create and copy and create all within the same life cycle of like a trend. That there are so many videos, because the amount of like it takes one person to do one slightly successful or like maybe not as successful video about the best antique tripod stand, and then all of a sudden all of them are doing it, which then leads into all of the commentators picking up on it, and then they all pick up on the same points because they're all doing a trending thing. And I just think it's absolutely amazing that these, and it's going to sound a bit like a shot, but it really isn't, because I can't do it. Like, it genuinely takes a different type of person to look at a situation and think, my commentary is needed on this. And then to produce a very high quality, like, reaction video to an audience of hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't understand that. Because I would love it to have 100,000 people, and if every month I was churning out a short film that I could fill a YouTube channel, I would love that. That would be great. But I don't have that. I can't. I've got, multiple dozens of stories, half written, 3/4 written, just one line. And one day I'll finish one of them, and then I'll be like, right, that's the one we have. That's the one we're going forward with. That's where our focus will be. If I've got 20 minutes, maybe I'll look at the others. But to be like, no, every month, write a 30 to 40 minute video every month, maybe more, and do all of it, edit it, shoot it, produce it, get it out there, promote it, and then start straight away again, pretty much on your own. I'm just like, that is outrageous. Well done. It's not filmmaking. But it is also but content creating is a bloody hard job. And I couldn't do it. Do you reckon you could?
I think it's different, though. I think it's just different but cross purposes. And you have to be extremely agile to do things. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist. The script is king for me. And I do think there's some amazing content creators out there who are doing these, acting all the roles kind of thing. And as you said, that the rapid pace they're putting stuff out is amazing. And you could only put down you can't put them down, because if you said, oh, that's not filmmaking, it would be if they were given the crews. And I think we could all make films and stories that were of that, let's call iPhone quality, but I don't necessarily think they'd have the same impact in a narrative perspective or a narrative world of, let's call it, serious filmmaking.
Sure.
I think that's the only the difference between it. But I have infinite respect for anyone who creates anything in any shape or form. I think the difference is content creation is primarily to make money relatively quickly with a growing audience.
Yep.
And I wouldn't say that filmmaking is. I think filmmaking is a log burner, not a fire starter. You eventually get your food cooked, but it takes quite a long time. Whereas they just throw all of the bonfire, all of the fire starters on, and up we go. Yeah, we've cooked it, but it's a bit charred. But it doesn't matter. They're going to eat it anyway.
It's out there. They're going to love it. They're going to forget about it tomorrow. Yeah. No, I mean that has actually. It's interesting that you said that. That has crept into my thought process quite recently, where I'm like, oh, God, on paper, it looks like I've not done anything for the last 2-3 years. And it's like, correct. Because you're you're crafting much bigger things. You're doing a lot more research. You're doing a lot more sort of like hard graft, and you're also fighting against an industry that's sort of not doing too well at the moment. That it's flush with cash. It's like if you compare yourself to a YouTuber, yeah, you are not churning it out. But then, like, is anyone going to remember? I won't name any YouTubers, but are you going to remember their video from 3 months ago about how they went to Japan? No, because it's going to get lost in a sea of all the other videos of everyone who went to Japan. It's like, so don't worry about it. And I just keep it like, oh, but I mean, they're doing it every month. I should be putting something out. I should be doing something social. And it's like, well, no, you put one of these out every week. That's good enough.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You got a podcast, so in a way, you are creating.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah.
And you're learning as well. And I think everything is about learning. Every day is a learning day on a film set and beyond. And I think every time I'm on set, no matter how generic I think the day is, I've learned something new. It's amazing.
My one is it's a good day when a film's got added to the watch list. A film I've never heard of or seen before. If someone says it, I'm like, ooh, go on then. Straight onto Letterboxd. There it is. Like, get that ready. I'm going to find that, and it's a great day. Great day. So you grew up in Cyprus, you say?
That's right. Yep.
Your parents are English, though. It's you refer to yourself as the third culture kid, don't you?
Third culture kid. Yeah, or third culture. Yeah.
So it's how sort of Cypriot filmmaking would that have been how you were introduced to it, or was it having, I'm going to assume, British parents? Was that their influences that brought you into it, or like what was it?
None of that, I'd say.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's an odd one actually. We had a thriving VHS market over there, and it was one of those things where the official VHS store would have a handful of legitimate, copies, and then they would make infinite copies so that everyone could get to watch it. And where those sources came from, God knows. Doesn't matter. Really was the Wild West of things, and we did have we had a handful of cinemas, and we didn't go to the cinema very often. So as you said, my parents are English. My dad, seafarer turned ship manager. So he worked at a shipping company over there. So we weren't in the military, but we lived, in Yeramasoya, which is in Limassol, and it's a lovely little village. But we lived, with amongst the locals, as we say, because a lot of British people tend to live in the conclaves of other called expats or immigrants, however you want to call them, in certain villages as well. So certain villages had the British immigrants or expats, but we were very very early on. We're like, no, we're going to live locally as possible because you assimilate better with the culture. And very quickly, the first friend I ever made was a little Cypriot boy. So and Mario, we grew up and we're still in touch. It's one of those lovely things. Cinema, so it was more of a VHS film kind of world than going to the cinema so much until I was about 15, about 4, I lied, no, I was 13 years old when our first Cineplex opened up. So up until that point, we only ever had one film at a time across 3 cinemas in Limassol.
Right.
And because depending on the sort of importing licenses and wherever it was from, we could often be between 3 and 6 months behind UK or America a release. So a film that had been seen and enjoyed by everyone in the UK, we would have it a similar time, I'd say, maybe to Australia, who also had it quite delayed as well. Don't know why, but that was just the way it was. Cypriot cinema wasn't really a thing, so our TV, their networks would have their own telenovela, both Mexican and Cypriot equivalents. But film, they did have film, but it wasn't something we wouldn't go to because it wasn't dubbed in English or it wasn't subtitled in English even. So it wasn't like we'd go to watch a Greek movie because it just wasn't a thing. There were a handful made, but it was mainly imports from England and America and beyond. So the Cineplex, when it opened up, they had £4 tickets. And we had pounds and cents before we became euro. So £4, with some pocket money, if it was £10, if I got £10 pocket money, I knew I could go to the cinema twice a week. And so twice a week until I was about 18, I went to cinema Fridays and Saturday, and then I would either go to the local Luna Park afterwards with the extra pound or two I had left to get a Big Mac or whatever it was, and
Yeah.
then I would go home early doors, and then eventually that became cinema. And then having drinks when I was 18, so kind of thing. And then 19, I moved to the UK. But essentially, I watched 2 films a week, every week for years. And it was just look at the poster. That looks interesting because that Cineplex had five screens. So it was a gamble, and I was like, well, I don't know what this is. Let's go in. I didn't even think to, sometimes we'd call up with friends, or what do you fancy watching? Some people were
Sure.
more interested in watching films than I was than others, but that was what really got me into the cinema experience. But then before that, I would watch all these films on the VHS at home, and we would just wear them out, or if we were lucky enough to have our own copy that was brought in from the UK from a family member who'd come over, because we didn't go to England very much. I think I went to England maybe 4 times in my life, so till I moved
Okay.
there. So it wasn't a constant visiting situation of going back to the UK. So we were just there. We were the ugly duckling family of all the family, just on this little island. And I think my love of film, well, filmmaking probably came with an English class where in my secondary school, one of our teachers was like, right, you have to make a film. And one of our friends had his dad had a camcorder, because we didn't have anything like that. My family were not at all predisposed to that kind of thing, so we borrowed his, and then I was editing it on the V8 across. He managed to have 2 VHS players, so we were like recording and playing
Oh,
back and
nice.
editing it between 2 tapes, which for anyone over the age of, well, I don't know what on this podcast who will not understand what I'm talking about, but it was real time editing with 2 VHS recorders basically, and it was very slow and very painful, and it was a silly little gangster film that we'd sort of concocted out of nowhere in a hotel. It was a hospital that hadn't been built yet, and it was sort of just the inside of this hospital, which is now a thriving hospital. But it was a building site, and we just filmed it on the building site.
Do you still have it?
That I'm sure we have it somewhere, but it's one of those things where I was like, wow, I loved this. I really enjoyed the process of creation. I really enjoyed putting the camera, and we only got to do 3 or 4 of these projects across my schooling life. And I never thought, it was one of those things that never occurred to me going, James, you really, really enjoyed this. Why don't you do this every weekend? And it was just, it didn't occur to me. If somebody said to me, why don't you ask your parents for a camcorder and then maybe you can make films all the time, I'd have probably gone, that's a really great idea. But I thought it was beyond me. I didn't want to, we didn't have the money to do that, so I didn't want to. They were so expensive, and I just felt I couldn't, and I didn't. It wasn't even a possibility in my mind, so it didn't. That's why I didn't do it.
But can I say, it's like, I grew up with a photographer as a father, so I got my first stills camera when I was 6. It was a little Fisher Price double-eyed thing, and I took photos all the time. And I think since then I've never not had a camera, and I've never not been offered the camera by Dad or seen Dad taking photos. Exactly the same though when it came to video. Like, I just never thought. Like, I did a filmmaking course when I was about 14, 15. And that was the first time that I was properly given, free rein. Like, here is a camera, shoot a documentary for this arts college. And it's like, okay, cool. So me and a couple of people did it. And until then, like, if I heard someone had a camera, I was always like, oh yeah, if you've got a camera, maybe we could make a film. And then they'd be like, well, I have to ask my mum and dad. And then it never went any further. But there was never a point where I thought to myself, I should ask mum and dad for a video camera. Because in my head, it was the same deal. It was like, well, no, I've got a still camera. That'll do. And I think there was just a period of time where, especially our generation, it just wasn't accessible in the same way. Now, you shoot something on your phone. A film on your phone is better than anything you would have done on an old high 8 camera. But, I
Yeah,
say
you're
same
right.
generation. Are we about the same age? How
I
old are
think
you?
so. Yeah, I'm 39.
Oh yeah, 37. So
Yeah. So no, it was with the photography. Like we did have a Cybershot camera. It wasn't a particularly fancy one. It was a point and shoot kind of thing.
yeah,
And I remember going on holiday and I said, "Can I have the camera?" They said, "Sure." And we only had one battery for it. Don't ask me why. One battery, and we were doing a tour of somewhere, and I used up all the battery by 11 o'clock, and I was
nice.
scolded for it by my father for ruining it because we couldn't take photos of other
Yeah,
things without it being, realistically, there should have been one more battery. As an adult, I'm like, why don't we have two or three batteries?
yeah.
But then again, it was probably an opulence thing where one is enough. So
Sure.
so that was my foray into photography. But I do love photography, and I took some nice photos I still have from that holiday, despite despite the
Yeah,
scolding.
nice, nice,
But
nice.
didn't own my own one, unfortunately. But do now, so I enjoy photos
There we
now.
go. What have you got now? What camera have you
Hey,
got
I've got
now?
an A7S III, so it does
Oh,
both.
nice.
Yeah, it's Sony.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Takes lovely
Oh, they're
photos.
lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they're
I've got a
beautiful
couple of
cameras.
lenses, a couple of primes, and take nice photos whenever I want, which is lovely.
I got rid of all of my lenses to buy T lenses.
Oh,
So I now do stills on T lenses
I mean that's lovely. If you
because it's
can.
just like, well, I found like the Seven Artisan full frame T lenses, brand new. They're only a couple of hundred, and it's like they have a nice softness to them,
Okay.
and it's like, oh, okay, like this is pretty good. And I've shot a few things on them, just like small promo things, and they got a real nice like they have some nice artifacts to them. They got a nice bit of tone to them. So doing a still on them, it's always like this is kind of like just taking a screenshot from a film, so I could set this up however I want. So
Yeah.
yeah, treat yourself
Yeah,
to one of them.
contacts as well are fantastic ones. They're a bit harder to find
Oh
now
yeah,
because everyone discovered them. So, but
yeah,
they're beautiful, beautiful lenses for everything.
nice. I'm guessing then with the first film you saw at the cinema, that might be a bit later than the films you watched over and over again as a kid. So what was the first film you saw at the cinema?
It's a really good question, and it's one I actually ended up asking family about a year ago, going, you know what? I don't remember what my first cinema experience was because of that blurred line situation. So I do remember a handful of films that I did see in the cinema, like Free Willy, for example, and I'm pretty
Nice,
sure Beethoven in 1992 we saw at the cinema. But again, it might have been Beethoven 2 because Beethoven 1 might have been a VHS thing.
of course.
And same with Lion King because Lion King was out in '94,
Yeah.
and Babe I definitely remember, and Charlotte's Web, for example, those sort of films I remember
Oh,
going to
nice.
this. We definitely went to the cinema for. So it's like I'd probably say it's probably Free Willy or Lion King or could have been the first, but I couldn't possibly tell you exactly which one it is, and I wish I knew because I do remember there was this it's called Hollywood, which was the name of the cinema. It was a tiny little thoroughfare in Limassol, and it was just this on this main road. You could just if you just tucked in, you wouldn't know the cinema was there because it was between two shops, and one was a barber, and the other one was just I think it was a shoe shop. I can't remember exactly what the other one was, but you sort of have to go down some steps. And I asked a family member. I said, we didn't go there too often. It was always a bit grotty. And they said, yeah, it was probably used for porn as well as being a main
Oh,
cinema. It
nice.
was one of those
Yeah.
really nice places. But because we didn't have many options as cinemas, I was like, wow, that's fascinating. I would never have taken my kid there if I'd known that. But it was one of those things, urban myths. You don't really know if it's true or not. Anyway, but we
Also,
were,
without hand waving, it was a different time.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I don't like saying it was a different time because that seems to excuse a lot of crimes. But the idea of a film like, oh, in the evening it shows adult content. It's like, oh, but not in the day when the families are there. That's fine. Like there
yeah,
was definitely
yeah. I think it was more likely that. Except I think the only film I remember being really, it was the latest I'd ever been out as a kid was with my father, and we went to watch Apollo 13, and I think it finished around 11 o'clock at night because of the way that the schedules work for the films.
Yeah.
And that was the latest I'd ever been out. So that was a core memory because I never went to the cinema with my dad. I always went to the cinema with my mum and my brother. So that was the only time I went to the cinema with him. And that was a core memory of that place. But yeah, it's I couldn't tell you what the first one was, but as I said, the VHS thankfully broadened my perspectives of film in general.
I was fortunate because I do remember the first film I saw at the cinema. It was Hook,
Oh,
and I was fortunate a couple of years ago when I met JV Hart, the writer of Hook, to tell him.
yeah.
And like that film gets quite a lot of hate, and I disagree. I think it's quite a fun film.
How
You know,
who's hating it? I think they're wrong.
I think they're wrong too. Thank you very much. And I got to tell JV Hart that, and I was very pleased. I was like, Hook was the first film I saw at the cinema. I loved it. Could be the reason I'm into cinema. Jurassic Park is the reason, but could be the reason. But yeah, it was very much being able to sort of like tell him that. I was like, that feels like a nice moment, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's
I
true.
feel for you that you don't know what the first film was.
No, and it's a shame, and I do wish I could, because maybe it was just locking off that part of my memory, but going further into, into my, as I grew up, I could talk about every other experience and all the ticket stubs I collected, but it's just,
Oh,
yeah, just not the first,
I
as it were.
I was a ticket stubs kid. In my wallet, I had a fat stack of all the stubs I had seen for every film, and I think the only two I've got left are, I have mentioned this on the podcast before. On my Clerks animated Region 1 DVD, I
Hmm.
have the two ticket stubs from when I went to see Clerks 2
Oh,
because my name is in the credits. Like,
really?
Kevin Smith put all of his MySpace friends, and Teddy was me.
Oh,
And
what?
there was just a moment of just like, that's my name on a Kevin Smith film. Oh my god! So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I
How
was very pleased with that.
fun.
Oh,
How fun.
like it would then take another 12 years before my name was then in a cinema credits, but
I
I'll
mean,
take it.
I think when I was younger, I always tried to look for a Cleave, to see if there was one of
Yeah.
us, and the only time it ever popped up was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures TV show. There was a Cleave.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's the
wow.
only time other than myself that I'd sort of come across that. Which is,
What?
I used to just count. It sounds really stupid, but when I was a kid, I was like, however many Jameses there are in this film, that it's going to be a really good film. So I just sit through the credits and just watch all the things. Get one, two, three.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
fortunate because obviously with Bennett we
Ah.
have Alan. He's not related to us in the slightest, but whenever I'd be like, "Oh yes, he's one of the Bennetts. He's one of us. It's fine."
Oh, Uncle Al. Yeah.
Oh, good old Uncle Al. We definitely don't have the same accent. That's for sure.
More like Gordon.
Um,
Yeah. So
so, I mean, Gordon, we don't talk about anymore.
we don't
I
talk about
mean,
Gordon.
jeez, we don't talk about Gordon. Um, where were your family? I don't want to be one of those people. Where your
Mm.
family really from? Like,
Yeah.
where in the UK were your family from?
So my dad was born in Newcastle, and his mum was from Liverpool. So that side of things were very northern.
Okay.
My mum's
Yeah.
from Fareham, so she was born and raised in Fareham. So very almost other ends of the world.
Yeah.
But her brother was in the Merchant Navy, as was my dad. They met, and that's how
Right.
how they originally got together. So yeah, that's yeah, that's
Okay.
how
Fair enough.
that's where they're from. So, but again, my uncle's her brother ended up moving to France and Hong Kong and everything. So I think that
Oh, nice.
my mum's side has been very nomadic. We're just very used to being very nomadic as a
Yeah.
family. So
Go where the life takes you, not make
yeah,
a life where you are. I think it's a smart
exactly.
move.
Yeah,
Smart move. Um, so, what films did you watch over and over again as a kid then on VHS?
it's good. I think again going back to that, I think a lot of it was TV. So like Thomas the Tank Engine and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was one of the staples that I watched like
Yeah.
without fail every single day. I watched those two
Yeah.
things. But I think Toy Story 1 was probably, when it came out
Ooh.
on tape in 95, 96. It was 96 when it came to Cyprus. I think it came out in March. We were quite delayed. I think it was in December, it was like 95 for UK. But
Yeah,
we
because
were.
I got it for Christmas.
Yeah, that's right. So you got it for Christmas. So we got it. I think we showed it in March. So yeah, so I watched Toy Story 1 and The Land Before Time were the two films I watched again and again and again because we didn't have many VHSs, so those were two of them that we did have, and I remember watching those. You know, wore them out.
It's a shame that whole thing of wearing out a film because, as you can see behind me, I have
Mm.
hundreds of DVDs and there's Blu-rays, there's VHS, there's Laserdiscs, there's everything, which add on top of all the streaming services as well, I have access to every film ever in existence. But when I was a kid, Addams Family,
Great shout.
2 of the Indiana Joneses, Toy Story, A Bug's Life, eventually came in.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of films, but we're still only talking. Like, at our peak, I think when I finally started getting into films as sort of an early teen, I started buying more videos. But as an early kid, we had stuff recorded off the telly, and maybe you had, like, between the family, a dozen videos. So you watched those videos. I've watched Bill and Ted, obviously because of, being called Ted. Like, I've watched Bill and Ted so many times.
Yeah.
And there's just not a film now that I would be like, oh, I'm going to go slap on, I don't know, the new Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. I'm going to watch that a dozen times. Like, I enjoy that film, but I'm not going to watch it a dozen times.
Just the original on repeat.
That original.
Perfection.
Got the 4K of it up there. Love
It's
it.
perfection. It's a great film.
It's so good. It is. It's so, like, moody.
It's so clever.
It's not for kids.
It's with Shredder shot where you think he's super, super long with that shadow, and you think his cape is so long, and it's just one of my favourite shots, actually. I love it so much. I love that film. Very special.
I'm a big Turtles fan, so...
Yeah, same.
Big Turtles fan. Your Toy Story. Have you watched 4 and 5?
Oh gosh, yes, of course I have. Yeah, I went to cinema.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've been to cinema for every single one of them, and genuinely big fans of the franchise in general. I think 5 was a beautiful addition. I think 1 and 3 are perfection. I don't think I don't think anything can ever top that. And I mean, my son's currently going through his Toy Story phase at the moment, so as a toddler. So it's lovely.
Yeah.
But he loves 2. He loves number 2, which we have to have a discussion when he's older. But no, two's a great one. But 1 and 3 for me are specific because of my particular, sort of core childhood. I just, for example, whenever we moved house, my Buzz and my Woody that I got, for real as a kid, I've always travelled the top of the only moving box in our car. Every time we moved, that is where they would sit. And the other day, I handed, just before the morning of Toy Story 5, I gifted him my Woody, which, so he has my Woody now, and he brought Woody and his own toy Buzz, which is a bit smaller.
Yeah.
Excuse me. His toy Buzz is a bit smaller. And we got him a Jessie as well. So he's basically got his own collection plus my Woody, but he can't have my Buzz because in case he breaks it, because it's a bit fragile. The plastic's a bit fragile with 30 plus years. But Woody's held up well, and he was looked after well. I really looked after my possessions as a kid, and he's, it's just really nice to see him enjoy it. So him watching Toy Story 5, not as his first film, but as a very important film to me, I loved it, and he did a great job watching it through.
I think that's a very good way of thinking about it, because I watched 3 I was going over to New York for some work, and I was like, I'll watch it, and I was in almost tears, if not tears, by the end of it.
Yeah.
And like I got off the flight and met up with some people that I was going to work with, and I sort of said to them, like, oh my God, I watched Toy Story 3 on the plane. And they were like, did you cry? And I was like, in the middle of business class, mate. I was a mess. And they were just like, it'll get everyone. It gets everyone, that film. And I was like, oh my God, it got me so good.
But I thought they were going to finish it. I thought they were going to end the series. That's why I got so emotional during the actual fire pit.
Yes.
And no matter how many screenwriting books I've read, I genuinely thought they dragged it out so long, and it was so well done with the music. I thought, this is how they end the entire series, because I'm so used to trauma films as a kid. They kill the mother in every film. I thought, they're going to end my childhood by killing my childhood toys, and I was a mess. And then when they were saved, I was just like,
Yeah. I was just on a plane. There was a guy sleeping next to me, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, I'm so pleased. Oh my God, I thought they were going to kill him." And I couldn't. I was an absolute state, and that's why I was so disappointed with 4, because I was like, "Why did I go through all that emotion? Like, the gang are all fine." but it makes sense if it's the next generation of people.
Yeah.
You know, you watch 1 to 3, that's your story.
Yeah.
4 is handing over the reins of your toys to your kids, and then 5 is what kids now know.
Yeah.
A tablet. And I think they've done very well. I think they've done very well to sort of keep that story going and still be relevant. Yes, it's a shame because you think like it's a perfect trilogy, 1, 2, and 3, but that's not to say that 4 and 5 aren't good additions. You know, it's like
they're a great addition, and I think they serviced not only the characters well, but they serviced the continuation of the story and for the new generation, as you said, with tablets, which are a real problem. Like, we're not a tablet household. It never will be. I don't believe in it. I'd much rather TV's okay because you can turn it off and it's set in a place. You can't take it with you. Phones doesn't have access to our phones. And that's just a choice. And look, I'm not going to be the first person to sort of critique anyone's parenting, because parenting is its own thing, right? So I understand why people do. It's just something I don't want to do personally. It doesn't mean I'm going to win. It's going to be very similar to Bonnie, where, you know, at some point I will probably have to relinquish that power and give him something for long journeys, whatever. I understand that is, you know, it's easy to be a hypocrite now and, you know, do the exact thing opposite of what I want to say. I've got a story about the plane, very similar to you. I was watching Marley and Me at the end of a flight, and before we were landing, it was about 20 minutes to go, and they turned off the TV because we were landing. I was like, oh, it's really annoying to get to see the film. What a great film. I'll watch it on my flight back to London. So I was on the way to Cyprus. Oh, what a mistake that was. Obviously, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess, having, you know, being a dog owner myself, and, you know, back when I was a kid.
God, there's certain films that I can't do because I'm just like, I haven't got the strength for that. Yeah. And I watched 6 Feet Under for the first time this year. Beautiful TV show. If you've never seen it, get on it. It's amazing. The ending montage, absolute tears streaming, right? And I'd been watching this show sort of for a few months, so I was sat there on my own and I was just watching it, and I was just enjoying the welling up, knowing it's coming, seeing how it all plays out, and I'm like, oh God, this is lovely. And I'm just in tears, just like content, sad, happy tears, you know, whatever. Yeah. About halfway through, the door goes, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I have to like get my shit together, go to the door, postman, hey mate, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. Clearly not. Eyes fucking bloodshot. I'm wet face. And he's like, you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine, thank you. Just like take it, close the door, and then just go and try and get back in. And I managed to stay with it and go, but it was just like, for fuck's sake, man.
Yeah,
trying to have a good cry over it.
Well, you want a good cry, you should watch MASH, and you should get to the end of MASH. Very similar, the most satisfying TV show ever written. Nice. It is the best series finale I think I've ever encountered.
Okay.
I could talk to you all day about MASH, but this is a film podcast. But if you did your life in TV, oh my gosh, I could talk to you about MASH. But
dangerous. Well, that feels like a very good segue into what was the first. What was the ratings in Cyprus? Was it 18s or were
same 18s? Yeah, we didn't have R rating. It was 18, 15, 12, PG and U. We didn't have a 12A. Yeah. It was just PG or 15. And depending on who was on the door, you could get in under 15 if you were lucky. But but that's how it works. Then.
What was the first 18 rated film you saw, and how old were you?
Okay, so this was an accident. So it was completely unintentional. I was on holiday in San Francisco, and we were staying at a hotel in the middle of town. It was it was not a particularly nice neighborhood, because before Wikipedia, not before Wikipedia, that's the wrong word. Before Hotel Trivago and all those sort of Booking.com.
You rolled the dice.
You rolled the dice with where you stayed, and it was a very sketchy hotel. But we had 2 rooms adjacent to us. With our parents, so they had their own room, and me and my brother had the other room, and it was one of these places where we went. It was like, well, at least we'll see the view of San Francisco, and you open up the window, open up the curtains. It was a brick wall, and I'm like, right, this is a great experience. But then it was so sketchy. So we're like, well, let's just close them back up because that's even sadder. And
Yeah.
we put on the television, and it was the television in this hotel was bolted into the cabinet, so properly
Yeah.
screwed in. It was genuinely anti-theft, and it was black and white. So we just flipped through the channels, and there was this film that started watching, and we said to our parents, we said, "Oh, are we doing anything?" It's like, no, no, you relax now, and then you're gonna go, gonna go to bed early, and we're gonna have a big day tomorrow exploring San Francisco. So me and my brother, we sat down, and I was 12, and he was 10, 11, and we started watching this film, and I was absolutely blown away by it. Right, it just captivated me from the moment we started watching. That film it's called Harrison Bergeron, and I don't know if you've heard of it before.
Harrison Bergeron. Yeah.
Harrison Bergeron it's a made-for-TV film, and it's a Kurt Vonnegut book, and Sean Astin played the lead role in it.
Oh.
And essentially, what it was about a society where everyone has to be chronically equal and leveled, the Great Leveling, where everyone, if you're too smart, you were sort of electrocuted to become average, or if you were too dumb, you were brought up into. It was basically an entire film about everyone being completely average about everything, and it was fascinating. And the ending took us so like. We were not expecting, because our household was very sheltered in the fact that we PG was PG, no 15 till you were 15. So this was a very colourful film in terms of there wasn't bad language, there wasn't anything that could remotely tell you or tie you to it being, we shouldn't be watching this, brother. It wasn't that kind of film. It felt a little bit naughty, but it didn't feel like dangerous to watch. And then the ending was so graphic that it just seared this memory of like, oh my god. And it's still to this day very hard to get hold of. And I think I bought an eBay copy years ago, which was hoping was authentic, but turns out I think it wasn't. But because it looked like the packaging and everything. But I'm very, very key to. I will always buy the original of stuff, especially films I love. But it's a fantastic film by Sean Astin. So that was the first time I'd ever watched an 18. It was an R-rated in America because of the ending, specifically because of the ending, and it was fantastic. But that was my first one.
Well, today's a good day. Added to the watch list.
You will love it. And
I can't wait.
Yeah, I think who knows what the budget's like at the day, but because it was black and white, it's not black and white. Obviously, I found out years later it was in color, but because of the TV. But yeah, that was my first one.
No, it looks good. I mean, I do like a dystopian future. I don't know what it is, but I'm always like, oh yeah, go on then. Bit of misery for the future, please.
Oh, this is perfect.
Well, I was going to say, like, this film also feels like could be the answer to the next question, which is, what was the first film you watched that you felt was grown up?
Well, that wasn't, though. I wouldn't say that was feeling totally grown up. Just because the ending was. I don't think that was a grown up film. It was clever, but because of the nature of it being very 1984 and, all that sort of popular thing. But I think the first one was actually. And again, my memory is between the two because we did a double feature of Casino and Goodfellas at my best friend's house. So again, we were in this realm of it was 18, and that was, or 15 or 18. I think it was an 18 rated or 15 rated, whatever it was. But it was a content matter that was so alien to me and my existence that when so his older brother had it, he brought it over from Canada because they were Canadian Cypriots. So they brought it over, and he said, we should watch this. I've got these two amazing films you need to watch. And I said, sounds great. Let's watch it. And then I just watched it, and I was blown away. And with Joe Pesci getting basically buried alive in the dirt, that was an adult moment. I'm going, this is not for my eyes, and my God, I'm enjoying this. But in as a film, it was the most awe-inspiring experience, and it was. Those two films just really stuck with me, and as a Scorsese fan as well, I just later on explored more of his catalogue, but at the time, those two films just, anyone who's seen it will know, everyone has seen it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think Goodfellas is my favourite Italian-American gangster film. Mm-hmm. It's probably my favourite Scorsese film.
Mm-hmm.
Purely in a rewatch. No, I'd say it is probably my favourite. And like Casino is one of those ones that it's such a solid watch no matter what. Like that is a double feature.
Yeah.
That's a magnificent way to spend 4 hours.
Because it was as simple as, my God, that was amazing, what else do you have? And he went, aha, funny enough. And the only reason we got away with it was because his brother was out. His brother never let us have his collection until he found. And then we got older, he was like, you should watch this. But when we were younger, he didn't want us to. So it was quite funny where we sort of like snuck it in and watched it, and because his parents were out, working, and like it was just weekend, and we were just chilling in the village, and it was just like, wow.
I used to love that. I used to love going over to a friend's house, and it's either the dad's or the big brother's collection of films where you'd be like, what's this RoboCop? That looks fun.
Wow. I
and
mean,
then you put it on, and then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, at 13 you're quite impressionable. Yeah, I think we were 13. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was that. Yeah, I think it was 13 at the age when we watched those two films. So yeah.
Which, living in a family, like I wasn't in that kind of family where if you were 15 you only watched 15s. Like our parents, they had their own certificate system, and it was very much like if they'd seen it, we could watch Terminator 2, but we couldn't watch Leon.
Okay. All right.
Explain to me why. No one knows. Like it was very much like a themes, nudity, and themes and nudity are the only like. If it was like anything that had anything to do with sex, it was a no.
Yeah.
But like violence, gore, swear words, they didn't care.
Interesting.
And I'm sure if you ask my parents now, they'd be like, "No, we safeguarded you." They couldn't give a shit. Watched anything.
You heard it here first, kids. Yeah. Exclusive with Ted.
Yeah. I think a lot of people know I've watched a lot of films, and my parents are to thank for that. So
I mean, you can thank them. You might not have explored it without that. So
Well, that's the thing. I think being able to any film was essentially like I think I stayed up one night and I watched a recorded video of Easy Rider, and I told my dad, and my dad was a bit like, "Oh, you probably shouldn't have watched that."
Yeah.
Like, and that was it. You probably shouldn't have watched that. Like, at the time, I don't think I understood it.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why themes or why I shouldn't have watched that film. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, I can understand why he'd say that. But it's funny because I don't agree. It's like, but that was also the household I grew up in, where any film off the thing, give it a go, because they didn't watch horror. They didn't have, Slither knocking around. Like, they didn't have all of those sort of erotic thrillers that were rife in the 90s. They just didn't have them. So essentially, if it was in the house, it was fair game.
Yep.
By that same metric, I watched Blues Brothers. Like, and absolutely adored that. And I miss that. I think now, kind of similar with kids with tablets, like your collection, I know you've got your cupboard of films. Like when your child gets to a certain age and they want to watch a film, you might be able to be like, oh, check something from the cupboard. But more realistically, they're just going to scroll through Netflix and they might put on something that you're like, ooh, I'd rather you hadn't watched that. For multiple reasons. One being, you should have watched 6 other films before it that are better versions of it, that then you now know why that's a rip-off of it. Like, you know what I mean?
And the answer will be, shut up, Dad.
Yes.
So shut up, Dad.
And that's,
watch the film.
And that's why I won't have them. That's why I won't have them. I'm telling you about films. You'll listen to me.
So when you hit a certain age, these are the films you're allowed to watch in this chronological order. That's a great idea. Yeah. Start it today, right? All Dogs Go to Heaven, off the list. Yeah. Off the list, never to be watched. Yeah.
Vikings with Tony Curtis. Yep. Great film, great fun film. Yep. Crack that on. You know what I mean? So it's all these things. Oh, always get hook. Always get hook. So. What film, or which film, that makes sense, which film holds a special place in your heart?
Which film holds a special place in my heart? I think there's only one answer for this, is War of the Buttons. It's an Irish film. I don't know if you've seen it. Your face looks like you have. Have you?
That's John Roberts, the director, is a family friend.
Well, all my hats, proverbial hats, must be taken off. That was one
I've
of
held I've held John's BAFTAs. That's
Oh, that's okay. That's those are the BAFTAs.
Yeah.
So you know all about Ballydales and Carrickdales. This was
Yeah.
a film that was recorded on the TV by my mum. She went, because again, flicking through what's available when we're at school, recorded it for the first 10, 15 years of my life. Didn't know what the first 10 minutes of the film held because we never had it. She recorded it a bit too late. So the first 10 minutes of the film didn't exist until my very lovely Irish friend Jodie bought me a copy of the DVD. So I watched the beginning, and I didn't miss much, thankfully. But it was that film, for those who haven't watched, obviously it's in 1994, about two warring schools in a neighbourhood. The neighbouring villages of Ballydales and Carrickdales. And for me, it's like childhood at its best. I think it's as an adult, it was all about coming of age. It's all about growing up. But as a kid, it's just about play fighting and the real wars you have. Because we had issues with different schools, very similar but not as violent, really, I'd say. But there was definitely a hatred across schools, and there were the wealthy schools, there were the local schools, there were the not so. I went to international school because that was everyone did. If you were foreign, you went to most of the time. Now it's not so much the case, but when we went there, every expat / immigrant, wherever you were from, went to an international school. And I think as an adult, it's like you don't really. It is really about wealth and poverty and sort of like the duality of society. And I think watching it as an adult is a very different experience to watching it as a kid. And they both work equally beautifully in their own way. And the music has stuck with me I still whistle the theme tune. I still it is the most beautiful children's film in the world for me, along with Hook. And Liam Cunningham and Cole Meany scared the bejesus out of me as a kid. He terrified me, and like I looked up to Liam as a father figure, as someone who really cared for the kids in the villages, and teaching them Gaelic and the importance of their roots, which he still does to this day. Liam as a major activist across a multitude of causes. But and it's a shame because a lot of the actors didn't act after that. I think a couple of them have done stuff recently. Ferguson, I think, has done something recently, because every now and then I'll look up to see if they did, because I don't know. I'm very interested in all of them because it had such a profound impact on my childhood. And I say I could watch Toy Story 1 all the time, but before we had the VHS, this is like the one that was recorded that I just watched all the time, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, that's why it's special to me, because it just, I don't know, I saw a bit of myself, I saw a bit of my brother, I saw a bit of my friends in every character, and yeah, it tells you about life, and I think everyone should watch it. I think everyone should watch it if they haven't.
I'll send this to John. Make sure he hears it.
Tell him I love him, please, because it really is a very special film.
That's so weird. I agree. It was a film that we watched as a kid, but only because this is John's film. We should watch it, because we went to stay with him in LA, and him and his family, because his wife and my mum went to school together, so they've been, they're friends to this day. My mum speaks to Julie all the time. But when he was shooting Paulie, the Talking Parrot film.
Yeah.
So great fun film. And he was shooting that, and there was we're in LA, come over and see us. So my dad was very much like, oh, you should watch one of John's other films, So he showed us War of the Buttons. And just that whole even to this day, the idea of a biscuit tin full of buttons seems like such a wonderful thing to find. And there's something about it that is just so wonderfully wholesome, but also it's teaching you about the troubles, as it were. And it's oh yeah, it's something that makes no difference. It doesn't matter, but you fight, and you fight because you've been told you should fight, and these things matter and these things don't, but these things do matter. And yeah, it's a very interesting film. And I did ask John about like the kids, and he was like, yeah, I think he said that he sometimes, keeps in touch, just sort of says hello, sees what people are up to, but I think he said he saw one of them a few years ago, but that was it. Like they've just, like you said, they haven't kept acting. So it's lovely that you referenced a John Roberts film, because I love
that. What are the odds of us, having that previous discussion, right? and then that was the film you're talking about, which is
that's so bonkers.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he won it, I know he won his. Because it was 2 BAFTAs he's won. One was for a short, and one might have been for War of the Buttons. So it would have been that BAFTA that he,
I'm not sure. Yeah, it possibly is. Again, I didn't know much about the whole BAFTA Oscar thing at that age. It wasn't really
fair enough.
We didn't have the awards were never shown. It was not something that it wasn't a metric for me. The
still wouldn't watch them today.
Yeah, the film for me is just is it an interesting film, and like same for trailers. I don't really watch trailers, or I start watching a trailer going, this looks good, I'm putting it on my watch list, I'm not going to watch anymore.
Yes, that's enough for me. Off it goes.
Yeah.
When I say I wouldn't watch the awards, I don't care about Oscars, but BAFTAs I do care about. So
I care about.
I don't know why.
I'll happily take any of them, or all of them. But what I'm saying was we didn't have the TV showing them when I've watched them as an adult, and obviously I've had friends who've won BAFTAs, and I'm very, very proud of them for the departments that they've been in, that I've worked with them in, or at directorial level. And anyone who wins anything in this industry, it's a lovely touch because it's a challenging
of course.
world. So
it's
not the be all or end all. Yeah.
No, it's a lovely. It's the cherry on top that means that you can probably get another payday, which unfortunately is a lot harder than we would expect. Now, this next question, we had some, for the listener, we had some back and forth over this. And I like how this, unless he's changed his opinion. What's your controversial opinion on a famous film?
Okay, so this isn't haven't really planned this out properly. I think it's very easy to dunk on films as a controversial opinion. I think it's very easy to say something's terrible. It's much harder to say something's good. Having worked in film for a long time, I know that no matter how terrible a film may be, a lot of people have worked on it. A lot of people's bloods, they've affected their health, their family, their everything to make this film happen. And I think it's, whilst it's, you can say negative things about films, it's not generally something I like to do. I have an opinion about films, and I generally keep them to myself on the whole, unless it's a good one. So I think if you don't mind, I'd probably say it's something positively controversial rather than negatively controversial. So yeah, and I think my positive controversial thing is that the 1998 film Godzilla was actually quite a good film, and I think a lot of people will look back at it saying it was, awful or cheesy, or you could, again, I'm not going to repeat them because I don't believe in it necessarily, because I think the character design was fantastic for that Godzilla. Yep. I actually think it was probably the best looking Godzilla in terms of the way it looked, the way it moved, and also the sound design of the actual Godzilla, because I remember having the toy as well going up. I didn't initially want to go to watch the film. The poster was the Bigfoot, and we had seen Jurassic Park, and I loved Jurassic Park at the cinema. But I had watched Jurassic Park. There we go. There's a cool memory. Maybe Jurassic Park was one of the early ones. It wasn't the first one. But it's definitely an early one. And I remember, because that came out in because it came out in 98. I thought, it must be like Jurassic Park. Maybe it was Lost World that came out just before it, rather than Jurassic Park itself. Anyway, one of the Jurassic Parks came out just before Godzilla. And
Lost World was 97, so
that's it. There you go. So it would have been Lost World, and I loved the first two films, and I would have watched Jurassic Park on VHS, and then Lost World in the cinema. There you go. And Godzilla, the big poster, I thought, it must be like that. I remember we were waiting for the film to come out, and I was obviously quite young anyway, and they had the most incredible sound system, but because the soundproofing wasn't very good, it bled through the walls into the foyer of Godzilla screaming from the previous thing, which terrified me, and I was like, I don't think I want to watch it. And then my mum was like, "Well, I've paid the tickets, so we're going to go in." And I was like, "But I don't know if I want to watch it."
Sit in the foyer.
She's like, "No, we've paid for them now. You have to." If you hadn't paid for it, I'd have probably got away with not watching it. Anyway, I remember sitting there being really, really nervous about it because in that it was so loud that it was like the walls were shaking. I don't know where we were in England because one of the few times we went to England, right? So it wasn't one of my cinemas back in Cyprus. It was literally in England. So the experience was different, different location to where I'm used to, my safe space of the Cypriot, system, and also. Anyway, sat through it and I just absolutely adored it. It was just so great, and I think it was so ambitious. And I think filming New York, which it holds up pretty well. I haven't watched it in quite some time, admittedly, but I do remember it being so. I do remember it. And I think I watched the trailer the other day just as refreshed to see if I was not just, milk bottle lenses thinking was it completely terrible, but I do remember the opening sequence and I just remember it being very good.
I agree with you. I feel like 1998 Godzilla gets the same unfounded hate as Hook, where people are like, "Oh god, it was dreadful," and it was like, was it? Because I remember having a whale of a time. I remember Jean Reno as a kid and being like, "Who's this guy? This Jean Reno guy's cool." Yeah. I remember Jamiroquai, like, doing the soundtrack. Like, that's sick. And it raining and, like, Mo Sislak doing voices, but in the film. Like, that's fucking so good. Like, there's so many things about that film as a kid that it's excellent. That, yes, as an adult, I must go back to it now and be like, "Oh, well, this is absolute horseshit." But I don't think I will. I think I'll go back to it and think this is a wonderful 90s thriller, action film, whatever, and it's going to be 90 minutes, and it's going to be a hoot. It's going to be an absolute ride, and it's going to be loads of fun. And I think, when you deal with films like Godzilla, you can't have gritty realism. I know Shin Godzilla, like, very much has gritty realism, and it's how would local government really deal with the Godzilla attack, and that's what Shin Godzilla is, and it's wonderful. Yeah. But if you're not going to do it like that, go a bit silly. Yeah. Like, because it's a roller coaster. It's a theme park ride. That's what this film is. This film is for entertainment. Big bucket of popcorn, shoveling, giggling, kicking your feet. That's what you should be doing when you watch a film like that. And I think that film does it.
You're absolutely right, and I couldn't have said it better myself. I think it is of the time, definitely, and you could say some of the CGI doesn't hold up in the same way that Jurassic Park did. Jurassic Park, you still think it was a real dinosaur.
Can I say, nothing holds up to 1993 Jurassic Park. I don't understand how CGI in that looks better than CGI today.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it was, there was to give credit to people now, they're giving a lot more things to do with a lot less money and a lot less time, and things change on a whim, whereas I'd say in those days, that was the shot. That shot is not going to change. That was the shot. And that's even the same as Minority Report. If you look at the CGI Minority Report, it's a phenomenal piece of work. And even, to an extent, Matrix, because that was, bullet time was invented for that. So there's a whole load of things that were... you could be, but they those were the shots. They knew what they wanted. They had the budget allocated. They did the time, and they all worked to it. And I think that's why sometimes, and also they're not over reliant on CGI. The CGI was complementary. So when I was watching the trailer for Godzilla the other day, there was Godzilla was coming between two sections of New York City, and either it was a model or it was actual New York City. It looked like actual New York City, but then they had practicals blowing out of the things, and then a pretty naff CGI leg of Godzilla. But the rest of it was practicals, because that's what that was, filmmaking was practicals. Yeah. So, and same for Jurassic Park. A lot of it was an animatronic, as you know, and so well done and so dangerous, as I'm sure you know. It malfunctioned under the rain a number of times for real, which terrified everyone and would have terrified me as well. But 100%. That's what made it felt so real. But no, I think Godzilla doesn't deserve the hate that it gets. And if I'd have known that Hook was one of those that got hate, I could have probably delved even deeper into that by completely disagreeing and saying that was the most beautiful childhood film as well as a film. I love Hook. I love everything about it. Then, especially with the sequence of them eating, and again, if you didn't have much money or you didn't, growing up, you didn't have food on the table, and that was how you imagine. I don't know. It was a poverty thing in certain, and I'm not saying necessarily that we were poverty, we weren't. But
No.
it was, but I could understand and empathise with the children in that situation, to an extent, and it was. Yeah, that's the scene that will forever be special to me with the paint. Yeah.
I mean, that multicolored food, as a kid, I wanted it.
Yeah.
Now knowing it was probably just food dye and mashed potatoes, but like in my head, it was like the sweetest, creamiest, like, I don't know what that is, but I want it. God, I love it. And every meal a banquet, that whole feeling of just like, there's these big old roasts and there's plates of this and plates of every dessert, and in your brain just being like, oh, I want that, I want some of that. And like, even if it's a poverty thing, even if it's just like, you got 10% less than the kid next door, you as a kid you don't know, so you only want, and it is always that feeling of like, I want some of that looks pretty good, that looks great fun. And an island where you're allowed to be a kid all the time and running around and having a good time, this is excellent. And it's all sets, it's all practical, it's real pirate ships. Yes, please. Like,
and
I think
Robin Williams.
And Robin Williams, which so good.
That's another podcast that gets all day long about him.
Honestly, I think I only watched something of his for the first time after his death about 3 years ago.
Which one was that?
I can't remember. It might be. I might have rewatched Birdcage. But
it's great film. Great film.
I couldn't watch anything with him in after his death because I think it would have just made me too sad.
I looked at it slightly different. I ended up going through his back catalogue when he died.
Lovely.
And from a fondness perspective, because he was such an influential person on screen for me, and he was almost like a father figure for so many kids. And he was in Mrs. Doubtfire. He was in a lot of my childhood growing up, from all those children's films through to the adult films. So when I got older, so I revisited a lot of his adult films, which, and I know some people.
I only watched Insomnia for the first time, like the other year, I think.
Nolan.
And it was spectacular film.
So interestingly, when I went to the cinema to watch it as a kid, I think I was about 13, and I was thoroughly bored, but I never forgot the ending. So that was one of the things where I'm like, I never forgot the ending, and that ending always stuck with me, despite me not really enjoying the film. And it's something I've always wanted to relive as an adult, and it's actually on my to-watch list as an adult because I think I would approach it very differently. It's like when you're at a cinema, there's 3 films that you're not the right age for.
Would you watch the original first?
What do you mean?
It's an original Norwegian film. Norwegian? Scandinavian.
Oh, sorry, the original film first. I didn't know there was an original film.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Stellan Skarsgård plays. I think he plays the Al Pacino role.
Well, I think because I had seen it in the cinema for reels, I would probably watch Nolan's one first. I love watching original films. From in the actual original language. I'll always watch it in the original language. I'd never listen to it dubbed. But in this instance, I would probably do the other way around. Usually, I probably have seen the original foreign version first, followed by the remake, and then been very sad by the remake.
I whenever I realise I haven't seen a film that also has a remake, so 3:10 to Yuma, Mangold's film. I never saw 3:10 to Yuma when it came out. It was out while I was working as a projectionist. I just didn't want to watch it.
Right.
So I found the DVD of the original and his, and I was like, oh, great, I'm going to watch the original, then I'm going to watch his. And the same with The Vanishing, the same with Speak No Evil. There are loads of films where I was like, I've not seen this, and there is an original. I now have the time to go and watch it original in this. And sometimes, sometimes they do a good retelling of the story, sometimes they don't. And I think remakes are an interesting one there
Look at All
are
Quiet.
obviously...
Sorry, All Quiet. You got the multiple remakes, and they're all different in their own ways.
Yeah, like, and there are some, like Magnificent Seven being a remake of Seven Samurai, and then, as I only found out recently, A Bug's Life being essentially a Seven Samurai as well. Think
I
about
did
it.
not know
Think
that,
about
actually.
it.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either. Someone pointed it out to me the other day, and I was like, "Yeah, oh my god, yeah."
Yeah.
But there is ways to remake films where I enjoy them. Like, I think that idea of retelling them in a new way is a very interesting thing. Like samurais to cowboys to bugs. Sure, you're telling me the same story. That's fine, but you're showing me a new perspective. When they just do a bit of a remake for the sake of, I think Argento mentioned it with his Suspiria. It's like you're remaking this purely because the name might get you somewhere. I disagree with that.
I saw Suspiria at Cyprus Film Festival completely by accident. I didn't know what I was going into. They just said Suspiria's up next, and I sat through it going, "This feels really old," and I'm like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then I looked at the program, 77, I think it was, and I was like, "This is just an unbelievable film."
Oh,
It
it's
was
spectacular.
so colourful, so beautiful in that respect.
I would love to be able to light a film with just red and blue.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be allowed to, but I wish I could.
I don't know, Keanu Reeves did
yeah.
a few films like that recently.
That's true. That's true. But Keanu can do what he likes.
Yeah, of course he can.
Of course he can. So, round it off, what have you been watching recently?
I have been watching probably what everyone else has. I've been watching, Obsession, Backrooms, Toy Story 5. I went to watch Mandalorian and Grogu because I thought that would be fun, and it
Did you
was.
have fun?
I did have fun. I knew what I was getting myself into for it because it's just a really fancy episode essentially.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Disclosure Day, Spielberg's new one. Devil Wears Prada 2. And then obviously a bit later on was like 28 years later, Bone Temple, and
What did you think of Bone Temple?
I really enjoyed it.
Good. I liked it.
I love the fact I'm a big Alex Garland fan in general. I think he's an amazing writer and director. I think he's amazing. So
If I could have any filmmaker's career, like, I think Garland's would be it, because it's being allowed to play in any genre you want.
yeah, I think that makes sense. But he's also earned it by
Yeah.
from he's written so
He's a
many
spectacular
believers.
writer.
He's an incredible writer. Ex Machina was my introduction to him.
Yeah.
Even though I had seen Sunshine and I had seen
Right.
the beach and all those kind of things. So even though that was Danny Boyle connections and all that, excuse me. But I love the fact that for a zombie film, we're finally finding out how it all came about and how to stop the outbreak, which The Walking Dead failed to do. It just ended so unceremoniously. I haven't watched the spin-offs to know if that's changed, but I did go through every season of the original Walking Dead, hoping that there would be some sort. I persevered throughout the last bits, but I really loved the original stretch of The Walking Dead. I did, and yeah, it was when Lincoln left. It was a bit of a shame, but I can see why.
Yeah.
The comic didn't end either, though, did it? There wasn't an answer, from my memory. No, and I think that was
jumped.
that was what my only criticism is, that at least if you're going to take someone on a journey that long, at least either everyone dies, or we find a solution to then start again properly, and everyone is completely safe. And that's what I like, the sort of direction I think 28 years later is going into. Obviously, the spoiler for everyone who hasn't watched it, with the negative ending with the Doctor, I kind of, in my head, hoped that he'd survive so he could be that catalyst. But because of what's going on with but because of the beast, as it were, coming to become human once more, hopefully that will be the catalyst to then, take us on that journey to fixing the UK in that space for the third film. Potentially, if that was the route they're going to go, and I think that would be really interesting. But I think himself and Danny and I know that I can't remember who directed Bone Temple.
Near DaCosta.
Yes, Near DaCosta. Yeah, again, wonderful job of it.
Honestly,
it looks fantastic.
I don't begrudge her being taking a Marvel job. Of course you're going to take a Marvel job. But her Candyman, like, sequel remake thing was great. It was great fun. And Bone Temple, grim and miserable. Like, obviously, it's going to be hard to turn down Marvel money. And, you know, I don't know what the deal was for her. She might have been given a very sweet package. But I would love it if she now just, like, took the time to be like, I'm just going to make really nice, grim horrors that are a bit more grounded. Because I'd watch the hell out of them. I think she does a great job with that.
No, she really did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was just it was a great experience. And I
also didn't dislike the Marvels.
Yeah.
Or whatever that second Marvel film was. I enjoyed it. I think it was good fun. I just don't think it represents her work. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that shits on that film because I don't think it deserves that.
No, I think they have very specific remits in that world to hit certain targets, and you can't begrudge anyone involved at any stage because it is a machine. It's a very, very, very successful machine, and it has its audience. Like, for me, the first Marvel film is Blade, and Blade is, for me, the greatest Marvel film ever. Blade 2 actually, but Blade 1, Blade 2 had better dialogue. Blade 1 had almost, the action was, anyway, phenomenal series. And I enjoyed Trinity. There's a controversial opinion. I enjoyed Trinity. I enjoyed Blade Trinity with Ryan Reynolds. He made me laugh so much, and that's a controversial film. It wasn't as good as 2 and 1, but I did enjoy Trinity.
It wasn't as good as 2 and 3.
Yeah, but
it was fun. It was
fun. Jessica Biel,
I think,
love her.
Oh,
yeah, love
she's
her.
So good in it.
So good
fun. Those 3 films are great fun.
Yes, they are. And 2 is perfect. 2 is the perfect film.
God, 2 is like...
Yeah, the opening sequence in that techno... Oof.
I love the scale of 1. I love that 1 is a really close-knit, like, almost an indie film, but it's a Marvel.
Yeah.
But I do love how 2's got the whole blood bank and, like, the weird vampire stuff going on. And I think because that was then, for a lot of us, like, I'm not going to say for everyone, because obviously that would be stupid, but for a lot of us, that was like, who is this Del Toro guy? And then you get to open that door and you're like, okay.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Oh, Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah, you're completely right. It's... I mean, that franchise was... I mean, it launched Marvel, as everyone knows, into the world that we are today, purely because of Blade, and with the sort of kickback with Deadpool, the latest Deadpool, with Blade being in it. I mean, that was just hilarious. That he... Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
There's only ever going to be one.
There's only ever going to be one. Well, yeah, it seems like it. Anyway,
turns out you were right, Wesley.
Turns out you were right, Wesley. Yeah.
Wesley is someone that I'm going on a bit of a Wesley kick. Let's say I watched Rising Sun, the Sean Connery, Michael Crichton one.
I don't think I've seen that one. If I have, it would have been a young boy when I saw it.
It's okay. Like, Sean Connery is a bit of a... Sean Connery is Sean Connery in it, and if you're a fan of that, you'll love it. And if you're not a fan of it, luckily there are other very good performances in it.
Yep.
But after watching it, I was like, ooh, I only know Wesley Snipes for things like Jungle Fever and Blade. Like, I don't know him for his sort of... What's the one with Woody Harrelson?
The comedy one. Oh, was it White Men Can't Jump? No, was it?
White Men Can't Jump. But then there's the one where they're robbing a train.
Is that the comedy one? Because does he play a trans person in it?
No, that's Tuong Fu. Thanks for the Memories.
Yeah, because he's great in that.
He's great in that. See, that's the thing. I only know him in more of his sort of
serious roles.
not in this. It's kind of the serious roles. It's the more out there roles. The roles where he's really rolling the dice. Like what I know of him is that he's a big supporter of showing mixed race couples in his films because he really doesn't like that. It's always white and white, black and black, and that's the rules. And like he was always a big supporter of like showing the alternatives of living. Imagine that.
I mean, that's my family. Literally that. My auntie married a Cameroonian and moved to America. So yeah,
like it
it happens. It's real.
It happens. If I remember someone said that once, where it was like someone was complaining about immigration, and I was like, if it wasn't for immigration, I wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Like none of us technically would, but I specifically wouldn't because it only goes back like my mum is half Indian, like. So that's that. Like, I don't know what the fucking problem is. Anyway, we won't get into it.
We won't.
But that's the thing. I don't know any of the Wesley Snipes films that were more of his like just bread and butter films, if you know what I mean. Like Art of War, U.S. Marshals, was it Murder at 1600? Like they're just those like general thrillers that he was in the 90s. I only really know his sort of like quite early, and then towards like before he had all his tax issues. And I feel like I really want to get into that section of his career where it's all just like great 90s thrillers. So I'm getting into that. That's
exciting. Yeah.
Oh, I love a project.
Talking of 90s thrillers, did you ever watch Crimson Rivers with Jean Reno and Vincent Cassel?
That's so weird that you mentioned that. I intend on watching it either today or tomorrow because I have it lined up.
Really? I went to the cinema and my friend I was with walked out because he was so disgusted, and I thoroughly loved that film. I loved it, and turns out it's heavily edited for theatrical purposes. Because I was looking it up the other day, it was heavily edited, and which made the film didn't make any sense. And I remember being a bit confused at the time, thinking maybe I missed something. But there is an editorial thing made to. All the explanation sections were removed, so it's a little bit bitty at the end. But I still thoroughly enjoyed it as a film. I thought it was great. So, but you enjoy it, and you can tell me what you think about it. But I love Vincent Cassel. I did a whole thing about him recently. I just went through all of his background. Like, I can talk to you about him as well. But yeah,
I mentioned Vincent Cassel to Kirsty, my partner, the other day, and she kind of was like, "Nah, I don't know." And I was like, "He's not a pull for you." I was like, "Interesting," because.
Watch him in French. Watch him in French. Yeah.
Yeah.
In his French language stuff is unreal.
Him and Irreversible.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the other one that's...
Is
it was
Lahane?
2010. Not Lahane. There was a... We've Already Made It or something like that. There's
Our Day
someone
Will
else
Come.
Next to Our Day Will Come. That's one that I want to watch with him.
Yes. Not my favourite of his, but it was a good film. Yeah, it was a good film.
What about Mesrine?
Mesrine is amazing. Mesrine is amazing. Part 1 and Part 2, there's 2 films. Part 1's better than Part 2, but Mesrine, the first one, is unbelievable. Yeah, it's a fantastic film. A really, really good film. Have you watched L'Appartement with him as well?
No.
That's a great film. L'Appartement in 1996. That just came out, I think it was a couple films after Lahane. That's a very, very nice film. Again, very, very smart film in terms of like low budget French film from my memory, but I just remember it being really good. I say low budget because I think it was contained. It might not have been low budget at all, so take that. So you can strike that from the record. But I remember it being very, very good. Yeah, I have that on DVD as well.
Found it.
There we go. Mesrine, is that a double bill? Yeah, that makes sense.
Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah. Mesrine one is.
One is.
Well, I mean, they continue. It's a bit like Che. If you ever watch Che Guevara, like Part 1 is way better than Part 2. It's just.
But it's a two. I'll watch it as a. It's a bit like
you watch it
Gangs
as a
of Wasseypur.
I've not seen that one.
It's a wonderful film. It's about a Bombay street gang, but generational. So it's 2 films, and you follow it from like the granddad to the son, but like it's wider than The Godfather, but it's bloody wonderful. But that's another one where it's like just carve out 5 to 6 hours and watch all of it. Like, don't consider it as a 1 and a 2. Just sit and watch all of it.
Yep,
gold.
Sounds good.
Anyway,
thank you.
So yes, there's been some good selections of films, but because of your sort of not ambiguous start, but because you're not entirely sure of like your first film, it'd be nice if we could have like a memory. Do you have any sort of like favourite moments or a core memory from the cinema at all?
I do. It's probably quite a unique one. I'm not sure how many people would have experienced it, but I was watching the 20th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back, and it was in one of the only cinema in Limassol that had two cinemas at the time. So there was basically two screens. So it was one of the bigger ones. It was the fancy one that we went to. It was one with air conditioning, for example. The rest of them did not have such a thing. And I didn't realise, it said 20th anniversary of Star Wars. I didn't fully understand what that meant, because Star Wars was not a thing that was brought into our household. Yeah. But I watched Empire. I watched the first one, and then a week later, then they showed Empire, and then the week after they showed Jedi.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that. It was a special 3-week run where everyone got to rewatch it as intended. So we sat in the cinema, and I obviously had already seen, I was just already blown away by the first one, and then Empire started, and I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. Halfway through the film, we're sitting there, and I'm like, well, it's a weird choice, this. And in the corner is this thing sort of crumpling, and then burning, and then on fire. And I'm like, what, this is a bit like Pulp Fiction, right? I'm like, what this? Yeah. I look back, and the entire projection room is on fire. It caught fire, and we're like, what the hell? But we didn't stop, and the movie's like stopped, and it's just like, and we're like, do we leave? Do we stay? And we're like, maybe we should stay. Great instincts of survival there. So we're like, no, we'll just wait it out, because they didn't turn on the lights. They just said, wait a minute, we will get everything ready. Stay in your seats, no problems. It's okay. It's a small problem with the projection, and no worries. It's okay. So we just hear this sort of as they're putting out the fire with the fire extinguisher, and we're like, what on earth? Because it was obviously silver nitrate canisters, because it would have been the original
old
canisters.
Print, yeah.
Old print, very, very, very. Well, I say old print because they said it's 20th anniversary, but they probably just used the original canister, and it was so hot that day in general, and everything together, the chemicals and everything. And sure enough, we just waited 15 minutes, and they just went and just started completely as is. And that's my introduction to whenever I saw Pulp Fiction, when it was burning it for real, or whatever film it was. It was probably Tarantino, to be honest. I was like, I've seen that for real. So that was a core memory of nearly dying in a cinema, but for the art of Star Wars, which
nice.
And nice. Empire is probably one of my favourite films as a result.
It's a lovely one, and I think it's unfortunate that people won't get that anymore, because it's all digital.
I'm very fortunate that people won't die. Yeah, very unfortunate.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
Health and safety.
Is there anything you want to promote?
So yeah, thanks very much. That's very kind of you. I would like to talk about my film Self-Tape. It's a comedy of about 12 minutes long, short film, and it's currently on its festival run. We've been very fortunate enough to be in a couple BIFA qualifiers. We won Best Comedy the other day, one of them as well. And essentially what it's about 3 red-headed actors all auditioning for the same role from the discomfort of their own homes. So it's all told from one setup per actor, as you would do in a self-tape. For those of you who are listening who don't know what a self-tape is, essentially it's a modern audition where instead of going to a fancy hotel for 30 minutes, you spend 6 hours reading, writing, lighting, shooting, and filming every single possible version of a script to send to your agent or to the casting individual. And it essentially touches upon all of the stresses of modern day acting and everything that entails. And that was kind of what I'm getting at with that. So yeah, that's a film that's out at the moment.
I really enjoyed the northern actors' sort of take on it, being like, just give me direction. Like, I don't want to waste all my time, presenting if I don't know. And I think I'm not a fan of like the accepting of a self-tape. I very much would be like, no, either I'll come to you because I want you, or if you can, you come to me. It's not just can you read the lines, it's can we work together? Can we form a bond where you trust that I'm not going to make you look a fool, and I'm going to trust that you're not going to make our script look silly? Like, I need to know this by meeting this person. And I think you've done a wonderful job of showing that. I think it does really show, like, the frustrations of an actor. And I think it's something that we should maybe not put the kibosh on, because obviously it offers an opportunity to actors that aren't necessarily within half an hour, 45-minute range of central hubs to offer themselves out to roles. But I don't think it should be the bread and butter way of getting... I've said bread and butter loads, maybe I'm hungry. Like, maybe it's not the... meat and potatoes, there we go. No, maybe it's not the the be-all and end-all of how we approach auditioning. I think it should just be an additional way.
Exactly, and obviously it's come about from COVID, where people couldn't physically get into the spaces for safety purposes, and it's just this film was born from many conversations with actors I know about the various frustrations of them having to miss weddings, miss this, miss that, for big opportunities of films where they've had to go to these meetings and instead of going to the auditions, they've had to stay at home and do the audition and really scrutinize themselves. And when you're in a room with a casting, you're like, is this what you're looking for? Or they might be like, no, it's more like this, it's meant to be a bit hotter, it's been a bit colder, it's a bit warmer. And showing that they can pivot as well is a huge thing, because my personal view on self-tapes is, as you said, it's great as a barrier to entry. If you live in Manchester and the casting session is in London and it costs a fortune to get to London, a self-tape is perfectly acceptable. Or you're a carer, or you're working class doing other jobs that are trying to make it as an actor, or whatever it is. Even if you're not, I'm not going to be classist about it. I think you should be given the opportunity to do either, with the in-person as a priority. And the beauty about it is, in the past, if you were working a day job or 0 hours contract or whatever you want to do, you could set aside that half an hour to be at that place to do your audition with those other people and then leave and then go back to your job or go back to your other things. So I think that is where, and also take the direction of going, no, it wasn't quite right. As a director, let's say I've received a tape and it's perfect, it's immaculate, and I've gone, wow, this is somebody who's really, really great, and I haven't met them for whatever reason. I've cast them, let's say, in that respect, and we're in this world where they could have taken 48 to 50 tries to get to that point, where on the day we don't have 40 to 50 tries. It's not Kubrick land, we have to get it on the second or third go before we're moving on. Realistically, the pressure on actors is unbelievable. I mean, it's unfair to an extent, because we give, lighting and all the other departments and camera and all the other departments do have a lot of time to get ready, and you almost put too much pressure on actors. And I think we should always give the actors the space and time to do what they need to do. However, they should be able to get there quicker than 50 takes, let's say, to be able to, as you said, and a lot of that comes down to knowing. And I think the first port of call should be. And again, I haven't worked with casting directors for my own things, because I tend to do a lot of it myself, and I never want to belittle the role, because it's a very, very challenging role to find talent and negotiate all that. But like for me personally, the way I like to do it is I like to watch people's reels first, with a call out. So I watch the reels, and I think within 10 seconds you can tell if someone can do the job or not, and then you whittle that down, and then I'd probably do a Zoom session over a course of a day with people, so I get to meet them first and say, look, I'd love you to know your take on the character. Could you maybe read a few of the lines? What's your intention? What do you imagine you'd do in this situation? Because that's the initial conversation without them doing any homework. I don't expect an actor to come fully prepared to the first thing, but if you can ask them to do 2 different versions of the same dialogue and they do switch that up, it shows that they're very malleable and we all work together. And if they can't and they give you the same thing twice, then that you're going to have a bit of a tougher time potentially, because either they don't believe your angle on it because they believe that their character is their way, which is their sort of prerogative, but it means that you might be bumping heads on a longer job. When it's a day or two, you can probably get away with it, but on a big stuff, you don't have you can't have that luxury. You've just got to get it right first time with who you're casting. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot of money to fix that problem. And and I'm not in the business of wanting to fire actors at all. It's hard. You want to get it right the first time. And when I work with actors, I try to I don't necessarily believe that you should know, as a writer-director that I am, you shouldn't have to know everything about a character's backstory. I think that's counterintuitive because it doesn't allow the actor the sort of breadth and scope to figure out the backstory for themselves so they can get into the character and delve into that world. You can guide them, but if you tell them that they went to this high school and this is what they ate for dinner every Sunday at their grandmother's house, I just feel that it puts too much added pressure, and I feel like you don't necessarily need to go to that extent. Some will completely disagree with me, and that's fine, and I understand that. But I grew up on the stage. I like the free will and free range to do what I needed to do to get there.
Thank you very much for coming on. It's been wonderful to speak to you. For everyone listening, I will put all of the trailer links for James's films at the bottom, so you can click through there and go check out the trailers for his films. They're all great fun to watch. My favourite was The Sometime Else, but only because that's had a sci-fi twist to it, and so.
Thank you so much for having me, Ted. Honestly, I've had such a blast. It's really nice to talk to someone who is so knowledgeable about film and has probably watched as many films as I have as well, and feel like we can go into such easy conversations about things. It's been I've really enjoyed it, so thank you for having me.
This has been a Lovable Rogue Productions podcast. Thank you to everyone that listened. If you want to help out your life in film, then download it, like it, share it, and give the pod a follow. I didn't realise till starting this that a download is the way they measure success and not just a listen. So, listening means nothing. Make sure you check out my guests on their socials, which will be in the description of the episode. Take a look at my letterbox. I've made a list of all the films that have been mentioned on the pod. There's fucking hundreds. So you can find some good films there. There are some good ones. There's some fucking weird ones, and I love them. Quick shout out to some of the podcasts I'm listening to. Caliber 9 from Outer Space. That's Rob and Joe's. That's really good. And then The Villain Was Right. That's a great fun. Check that out. If you really want to be a mensch, give me that money. There's a link in the description. It'll explain it all. But a download and a share is excellent, and I actually appreciate that a lot more than you'd think. We currently have no sponsors, but I am open to them. I'll shill anything. I don't care. This has been a Lovable Rogue production. Thank you for listening.